If you have been following along with me for a relatively long time, you might have realized that I have a few things that I'm very passionate about. The most obvious is yoga for core and pelvic health, or really any kind of movement practices for pelvic health, but also really taking a new spin on what yoga looks like. So today, let's talk about how I integrate weights into a yoga practice. My name is Dominique Gauthier. I am a personal trainer, a registered yoga teacher, and the owner of Body Mind Fitness, which is a registered yoga school, meaning I teach people how to teach yoga. So back in 2016, I became a mom for the first time. And prior to being a mom, I had my separate strength training sessions, I had my separate yoga sessions, and I also did spin classes. Once motherhood kicked in, I didn't have time to do all of these individual pieces anymore. So, in my own practice, I started blending yoga with strength training. And I started talking at the studio to the students that were coming here, saying, this is what I'm kind of doing at home. And they were really curious about that. And so, yoga for mobility and strength was born. Now let's talk functional movement patterns. These are movements that we do in everyday life. And when someone comes to me and says, I just want to move and feel better as I make my way through life, we definitely make sure that we program these types of exercises in. And typically they fall into 7 categories. If you Google it, you're going to see all kinds of variations, slight switches, but there's some core key things that are always going to be there. Squatting. Single leg movements or lunges, pushing, pulling, twisting, bending, and gait, as in walking. Again, different things are going to have different lists, I should say, will have different things like carrying things around, like carrying a weight in your hand and walking around. These are all fantastic things to do. But when we talk about a yoga class that is encouraging functional movement, that is talking about how it's going to make you feel better in life, these things are often missing. Certain things are going to be inherently there, but other things like the act of pulling something is missing unless we incorporate something else. Enter my dumbbell. So for today's practice, all you're going to need is a weight of some kind. I would go really light, especially if you've never done this before, and a chair. I wanted to keep it really simple so you could do this along with me at home. So let's go ahead and start with the squat pattern. So in a yoga class, we do see squats showing up in different ways, but I want to talk about goddess squat today. So typically we take the feet wide, we reach the arms up to the sky, and we come down, and typically this position ends up being held. Now, holding a position is a whole different ball game, and if you're relatively new, this can feel really intimidating. You might not feel like you can make it to the end. But if we incorporate a weight, which we're going to pick up very safely, we can bring the feet back to that wide position and bring the weight to the chest. From here, we're going to breathe in as we push the bum back and down, and breathe out as you push back up, but also press the weight overhead. So we're inhaling on the way down, exhaling on the way up. Okay? Now, as the bum goes back and down, it's going to cause the knees to bend. And it's actually going to take a lot of pressure out of your knees. Now, the bonus with this particular movement is we're also getting the push into the movement by pushing the weight overhead. 2 more if you can. We're going to bring the weight down, step the feet together, and take a break from holding that weight. Next, we're going to go into a pulling pattern. So this is where the chair is going to come in. You can place it at the top of the mat, so when you're standing in front of the chair, the seat of the chair is facing towards you. Go ahead and pick up the weight, place it on the chair, and stand in front of the chair with your feet hip distance apart. From here, we're going to take the left foot back, not very far, enough so that your heel can be down, your toes are on an angle, and then swerve your hips and shoulders towards the chair. Now we draw the ears in line with shoulders, and then we start to hinge from the place where our pants crease, bringing our hands into the chair. So typically, this looks like pyramid pose. A lot of times you'll see hands on shins or hands on thighs, something like that, just to kind of do the movement essentially without using any additional props. Now from here, we're going to take the weight with our left hand, same hand as your back leg. Spine is nice and long, chest lifted. Start with a breath in, and as you exhale, draw the shoulder blade towards the spine and bend the elbow back. Inhale, releasing the weight down. Exhale, bring it up. Now at the very top, you could try tucking your elbow towards the body. You can try bringing the hand a little bit closer to being in line with the hip. One more. Releasing the weight down, bringing it back to the chair, go ahead and stand up. Then we're going to head to the other side. Right foot back, heel down, toes angled, hips, shoulders to the chair, long hinge forward. And then once you're ready, we take hold of the weight once again, starting with a breath in and no movement. Exhale, drawing the weight up. Now we are looking for that kind of sliding of the shoulder blade in towards the spine, because we want to make sure that this doesn't just become an arm exercise, but it becomes a back exercise as well. One more. Release down, place the weight on the chair, come on up to standing. The next movement I have for you is called a single leg deadlift. So this is going to fall into our single leg category. Again, sometimes it gets interchanged with lunges, single leg movements, but for the purposes of today's video, we're going to definitely do a single leg deadlift. So there's a balance aspect to this as well. And before we get into it, I do want to show you again what that position looks like from a traditional yoga practice. So let's say, okay, we'll do right leg back, toes are down. We want to bring the body in line from crown of the head to toes, and then we tip forward. A lot of times you'll see arms reaching overhead, and that is your warrior three position. Now we can bring this into not just balance, but also strength by picking up the weight with your left hand. Your left leg is the standing leg. Your right toes come back. We do the same setup where we pitch the body forward. And you can even add a little bit of a bend to your right knee, which is going to help your leg get a little higher. Then from here, we inhale down and we exhale back up. Ooh, a little wobbly there. It happens. Try pressing down through your big toe and try your best to maintain that long line from crown of the head to your heel the entire time. Last one. And then we make our way onto the other side. So holding the weight with the right hand, right leg is your standing leg, left toes come back, shoulders are set back. Find that angle, crown of the head to heel. And as you come forward, you can even try pressing through the heel just to get a little bit more engagement through the body. Two more. Inhale down, exhale up. Fantastic work. So we have covered the squat, and we added a push to that. We did our single leg movement, and to be honest, what I didn't talk about is there was also a pull aspect in there as well, which we also ended up covering with our rows or pyramid pose. Next, we're going to head into twists. So I mentioned twists as part of that list. So you can sit down on the floor, you can sit down on your chair, whatever feels easiest for you. Now, a lot of times when we are twisting, especially from a chair, we're looking to keep the hips very equal. So we end up crossing the right leg over the left, or we squeeze the knees towards each other. As we twist, we place one hand on the chair to help us sit tall, opposite hand to the outside of the leg, and we use it as a lever to help move us into a twist. From a strength perspective, we can find that same position, so again, knees together or crossed, bringing your hands to your chest to just sort of get them out of the way. If you want to do something else with the hands, you definitely can. Sitting up nice and tall, we exhale and twist. Inhale back to center, Exhale, twist. Now, the first thing you'll notice, one more, and then we'll switch to the other side, is that as we're going through this twist motion, you're going to notice you're not twisting quite as far as you did previously. Completely understandable because we're not using the lever of our hand to help move us into the twist. But what we are using is our muscles to help pull us into that twist and bring us back to center. Two more. Perfect. Now, as for the other options that we have walking. This can be done in a few different ways. I really like to couple it with balance. That is a really fun way to kind of get the walk in. But it might also look like simply picking up your weight in one hand, trying to keep both sides of your torso even, and just walking around. So that will cover the carrying part if you were curious about that. Otherwise, something else you could do, which we are doing currently in class, is walking the edge of your mat. So you're going to start by placing your heel and the middle part of your toe on the edge of the mat. So half of your foot is on, half of your foot is off. Then we're going to bring heel in front of toe, and once again try to find the center of the mat going, or the mat going right down the center of the foot. Now this is easy if you're looking at it. So then the option is to not look at it. So just taking your time, feel out the mat. It's okay if it takes you a few minutes just to kind of locate, okay, where is that mat coming down the center of my toe? I find that to be much more challenging than finding the center of the heel, to be quite honest with you. So there you have it. Combining functional movement patterns along with yoga poses so you can get more out of your yoga practice. So just a quick recap, we did our squat with our push in a goddess pose style movement. We did our row that came into play with the pyramid pose. We did a single leg deadlift, which looks very similar to a warrior three. We did a twist, and instead of using levers, we used the muscles in our torso to do that. And then I gave you a couple of different options for walking, but to be honest, going for a walk is going to cover that functional movement pattern as well. But I wanted to give you something that is really tangible, really great for you to use. Now, I'm not going to lie. I get a lot of pushback, especially from my peers in the industry who are really about traditional yoga styles, and I get that. And I'm not going to say there's anything wrong with that. But the way I see things is the yoga poses that you see today are only about 200 years old. And the way that people were living 200 years ago is very different than how people are living today. So we need to adapt so we can make sure we're taking care of ourselves, especially considering we're spending long times in seated positions, staying very still. And even if you're not sitting all day, you're in these very specific positions for long periods of time instead of moving through all of these different ranges of motion by doing a variety of different tasks. So if you love what you have watched today, I would love to invite you to join me for a drop-in class of yoga for mobility and strength. We have 2 class times weekly. They are available online as well as in person. And if you use the code FIRSTCLASS10, you will pay only $10 for that very first class. All prices are in Canadian, so if you're coming from somewhere else, there's a chance it might even be cheaper than that. So I would love to have you join us. If you have any questions, please don't be afraid to comment below. Aside from that, I look forward to connecting with you again very soon. Bye.